10 steps to fix insomnia. I started this social media crusade to help people who have sleep issues. Getting the right amount of good quality sleep is essential for health, and there's simply not enough availability. It can take months to get in to see a specialist. Teresa Skaggzzz here. I have 35 years in the field of sleep disorders. I mostly counsel insomniacs and help people sleep better. Let's get into the top 10 things I have my patients do to start fixing their insomnia. Number one, establish a consistent bedtime and wake time, even on the weekends. Do I need to say that louder for the people in the back? Even on the weekends. Why? Because your internal clock, your circadian rhythm, craves consistency. Waking up at the same time daily anchors your rhythm and helps your body know when it's time to go to sleep at night. Getting out of bed at the same time every morning is the number one non negotiable. If you sleep in, you delay your sleep drive and throw the rhythm off. So when your alarm goes off, get out of bed ASAP. And then do number 6, which we'll get to later. Number 2, use your bed only for sleep and intimacy. If your brain is running and won't shut down at night, I would suggest using this distract and relax technique. So the first thing I want you to do when you lay down in bed and you're ready to go to sleep is do the 4-7-7 breathing. So you're going to take a deep breath in through your nose. So for 4, you're going to hold it for 7, and then the long exhale through your mouth for 7 and get all your air out. You're going to do this about 4 or 5 times, and this works because it takes you from sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, to a parasympathetic nervous system, which is relaxation. So we're going to start by doing 4 or 5 of this 4-7-7 breathing. This is called stimulus control. You need to retrain your brain to use your bed for sleeping, not tossing or turning or worrying or scrolling on devices. Once you do the 4-7-7 breathing, then I suggest that you listen to something. And you want to keep that on low, so you kind of have to strain to listen for it. And this is a personal preference. Personally, I like this Michael Seeley on YouTube. It's called Sleep Hypnosis. And it's more like a sleep talk down. So it talks you through relaxing, feeling your bed, your eyes getting heavy, and it really helps you go to sleep. So that's one option. I have patients that pray at night, do the rosary. I have them listen to podcasts. In fact, I have one patient that listens to a missing persons podcast. And this shows how personal preference, because if I listen to a missing person podcast, I would be up searching the internet trying to help find these people. So you need to find what works for you as far as something that's relaxing, non-stimulating, that it's not going to be something you're going to get into, just something that you can focus on listening to. So your brain isn't thinking about that one thing you shouldn't have said 7 years ago. I'm spending a little extra time on this number 2. Biggest mistakes I see people making. They use their bed to scroll, work, read, watch TV, or anything else that's stressful. If you do this, you're going to start associating your bed with stress instead of sleep. Number 3, if you're not asleep within 30 minutes, you need to get out of bed. Lying in bed awake creates frustration and reinforces insomnia. If you can't fall asleep, you need to get out of bed, go into another room if you can, and do something non-stimulating. I have people say, oh, I got up and cleaned and did the dishes and did that. No, you need to go into, let's say, a dimly lit living room and listen to something that's relaxing, or, if there's a TV program that you've seen a million times that you're not going to get into, just something that relaxes you. and then you're going to go back to bed and try it again. You're going to do this anytime you're awake and laying there for 30 minutes or so. And this is going to break this cycle of being awake in your bed. You've got to do something. I know it sounds a little miserable, but you've got to do something to break this cycle. Number 4, reduce the amount of time in bed to match the actual amount of sleep you're getting. This is called sleep restriction therapy. Many insomniacs spend way too much time in bed trying to catch up on sleep, which actually backfires. I had one patient that was spending up to 15 hours a day in bed trying to get enough sleep because she was exhausted and only getting about 4 hours of sleep a night. So, what ends up happening is if you're only sleeping 4 of those 15 hours, that means you're laying in bed awake for 11 of those hours. So, by this example, we cut her time in bed to a 5-hour opportunity of sleep to consolidate it. And once she was sleeping those whole 5 hours, then we move the sleep back by 15-minute increments till we're up to our desired 7 or 8 hours of sleep. So you're going to do this by tracking the average amount of hours you sleep for a couple of weeks and then set that as your sleep window. So for example, if you're only sleeping on and off, let's say for 6 hours, you would give yourself a 6-hour window to sleep. And I know that seems counterintuitive because you're tired and you'd like to have more sleep. But the first step is to consolidate that sleep and get it to where you're only using your bed to sleep, not laying there for hours awake. Once you're sleeping, that whole sleep opportunity window, then you're going to move your bedtime back by 15-minute increments until you're sleeping the desired amount. This works because it strengthens your sleep pressure and deepens rest, so your sleep becomes more efficient. If you want a comment journal, I can send you the sleep journals that I've created so you can spend a couple of weeks tracking your sleep. And sometimes when people use these journals, they'll actually see patterns that are causing their sleep problem. But it's a good way to get your average sleep window and see what else was possibly going on or causing some issues. Then you can cut down the amount of time you're spending in bed. I know this may sound like a nightmare to some of you, and it's hard at first, but the payoff is tremendous. After just a few months of a lot of these steps that we do, I have patients rewarded with sleeping a whole 7, 8 hours of sleep that they haven't had in years. Create a wind down routine. Sleep doesn't happen on demand, it needs a gentle transition. A consistent 30 to 60-minute routine helps your brain shift from alert mode to rest mode. There's a reason we create a bedtime for our children, or we had one ourselves. It works. Our bodies need cues and routines. Dim the lights, stretch, journal, listen to calming music or an audiobook. Avoid screens and stressors. This again is a personal preference situation. Find what works for you and use it. Number 6 is expose yourself to light in the morning. I did a whole video on this, so I'll link that below if you have questions about this, because other than getting up at the same time every morning, this is the other most important thing that I stress with patients. The important thing with light in the morning is timing and intensity. So for timing, you need to spend 20 minutes in light within the first hour of awakening. So let's say you get up at 7 a.m. So sometime between 7 and 8, you need to spend 20 minutes in light. Intensity is the lux of the light. So our body needs at least 10,000 lux of light to tell our bodies that it's morning. That morning light shuts down melatonin production and makes you feel more alert. It anchors your circadian rhythm and sets your bedtime for that night. And for example, a candle is like 3 lux of light. Your living room light is averaging 100 to 500 lux of light. And outside, even on a cloudy day, is 10,000 to 50,000 lux of light. So, number one, I recommend getting outside, no sunglasses, because that's going to defeat the purpose. Go for a 20-minute walk, sit and have your coffee outside, look toward the light, breakfast outside, whatever, just whatever it takes to get 20 minutes of light. Now, not everybody has 20 minutes to sit in front of a light. Or if it's rainy or cold and you just don't feel like going outside, there's some alternatives. There's a SAD light, that stands for seasonal affective disorder, and you can order those on Amazon. You just need to make sure it's at least 10,000 lux. Or there's these glasses that I use sometimes called AYO, AYO. I will use them while I'm brushing my teeth or my morning routine. Or if I'm inside walking around our community center, I do get some looks, but I will wear them there too. That way I'm getting my exercise in and my light. So if you don't have time just to sit in front of a light for 20 minutes or sit outside for 20 minutes, that's a good alternative because you can wear those literally while you're doing your morning routine. Number 7, we're going to challenge negative thoughts, which I know that's easier said than done. But insomnia often feeds on anxiety and faulty beliefs about sleep. For example, if you're like, I didn't sleep, my whole day is going to be wrecked. We need to identify and reframe that way of thinking or talking. So you identify that you're saying, I didn't get enough sleep, I'm going to be a wreck. And we're going to reframe that to, I've had plenty of nights that I didn't get enough sleep and I was just fine. In fact, there was a study that showed even 5.5 hours of sleep, people's function and reaction time were normal. So you may not be getting enough sleep to feel great or feel extremely rested, but you may be getting enough to function all right. I also have patients who'll be like, great, it's 1 a.m. Here I am awake again. I'm not going to get enough sleep. Or it's 3 in the morning. I'm awake for the day. This is miserable. I had 3 more hours I could have slept. So when you're thinking like that, you just need to identify that and realize you cannot make yourself go to sleep. You have to allow yourself to go to sleep. So that anxiety and negative talking is actually feeding into your insomnia and making it worse. So when you identify those, just think about, okay, go back to I'm going to distract my brain and I'm just going to try to relax, and laying here resting is better than nothing. Or I'm going to get up and go into the other room, relax, and try it again. And I know that I'm doing the right steps to make my insomnia better. But that negative self think and talk just feeds into it. And actually, it's a myth that everybody needs 8 hours of sleep. So that's another thing to think about. The average adult needs anywhere from 6 to 9 hours of sleep. So some people get by just fine on 6 hours. The study shows 5.5 hours is even adequate for function. And then some people are long sleepers and need a little bit longer, but not all of us need 8 hours of sleep. So if you're getting 6 or 7 and feel okay, then maybe that's all the sleep that you need. Number 8, limit naps. I can't tell you how many people sit across from me and they're afraid to admit that they nap because they think we're going to yell at them. But that is not the case. Sometimes when you're going through this and you're only getting 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep at night and you're exhausted, a nap is a good option. But you just have to watch how you nap, how long you nap. So we recommend less than 30 minutes for your nap and before 2 p.m. So if you're exhausted and need to lay down and take a nap, just purposely lay down and take a nap and set your alarm for 20, 30 minutes, then get up. And the reason this works is because you don't get into the deeper stages of sleep that will then interfere with your nighttime sleep. I don't know. Have you ever taken a nap and woken up and thought, what day is it? Where am I? And have no idea? That's because you took a long enough nap to get into deep sleep or REM sleep. So that's what we want to avoid. One patient, she's so funny. She gave me permission to use this, but she told me, I take a little napetizer. And I said, a napetizer? What do you mean? And she was falling asleep on the couch at like 8 p.m. and then waking up to go to bed at 10 p.m. So her napetizer was 2 hours of sleep on the couch before she even went to bed. The problem with that is then she was getting up, getting ready for bed, going and laying down in bed, and then unable to go to sleep. And that's because she had probably already gotten into deep sleep laying on the couch and then was wide awake and had trouble getting back to sleep. In that case, you're better standing up and watching TV, walking around, doing something to keep yourself awake until it's bedtime. Or if you're that tired in the evening, consider moving your bedtime up. But no appetizers. Number 9, watch caffeine, alcohol, and food timing. These all affect your sleep. Caffeine can stay in your system for 6 to 8 hours. So I recommend not having any caffeine after 2 p.m. or noon if you're real sensitive to it. Alcohol seems like a good idea. I have patients tell me all the time, oh, it helps me fall asleep faster. The problem with alcohol is it may help you seem to fall asleep faster, but then it's going to interrupt your sleep and fragment it throughout the night, and you're not going to feel as rested in the morning. And with food timing, you don't want to have a big meal too close to bedtime because then your body is going to be digesting that meal throughout the night or the next few hours, and it is also going to be disruptive to sleep. If you need a small snack before bed, that's okay. I recommend nothing if you don't have to, but some patients need that. So if you need a small snack, I would just recommend, something with maybe a little protein and fat and make it very small. That way, it should not disrupt your sleep at night. Number 10, consider supplements. While we're trying to correct behavioral and possible circadian rhythm issues, supplements can aid in this and help you get over the hump. Here are my top recommendations for supplements, but you need to do your research and check with your physician, especially if you're on other medications. For example, let's say if you have a 10 p.m. bedtime, then at 8:30 p.m., I would recommend taking 5 milligrams or less of melatonin. Now, somebody did a great job marketing melatonin because everybody and their brother thinks it's a sleeping pill. Melatonin, at least the way we use it, is not for sleeping pill. Melatonin, along with that morning light that we talk about, can help straighten out circadian rhythm issues. In fact, if you travel overseas or to a different time zone, it can help you with that too. Because our body naturally releases melatonin, but some people, because of blue light from your devices or different issues, may not have melatonin releasing at the right time that's conducive with your sleep schedule. So if you plan on going to bed at 10, we would have you take melatonin at 8:30 because when you take it, it peaks an hour and a half later, and that's conducive with sleep. So we use it as a tool along with light to correct any kind of circadian rhythm issues that you might be having. Other supplements I recommend is magnesium glycinate and magnesium L-threonate. Mostly what I see is someone coming in and saying, I can't go to sleep. I lay there for hours and can't fall asleep. Or I'll have them say, I fall asleep just fine, but then at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, I'm wide awake. For some reason, I'm waking up and then I can't get back to sleep. And some unfortunate people have both. But magnesium glycinate can help you fall asleep, and magnesium L-threonate can help you maintain sleep or get deeper sleep. One of the reasons, there's a couple reasons people wake up, consistently, let's say between 2 and 4 in the morning. Sometimes it's cortisol. So what happens is your melatonin peaks and then it starts declining throughout the night. And if you have high cortisol levels, when that melatonin drops off and your cortisol is high, it will cause an arousal. So magnesium can help with high cortisol levels. So that's one reason I recommend that. An alternative to magnesium L-threonate, the stuff that makes you have deeper sleep and maybe stay asleep at night, is L-theanine. So L-theanine is another good option that you can take that should help you get deeper, more restorative sleep. Now, with these magnesiums and the L-theanine, all of those are around 2 to 400 milligrams that you should be taking. You can start with the 200 milligrams and go up to 400 milligrams. A lot of people tell me that they're taking a multivitamin, so check and see how much that has in it, and you can add to it with your magnesiums. And I recommend taking those at night. Another consideration and cause for people waking up sometimes in the middle of the night is blood sugar. So, an option for that, I personally take glycine powder with a teaspoon of honey at night. So, I do that at bedtime, and that can help me sustain my blood sugar and get a little more deeper sleep. As you're going through this process, be patient and stay the course. Correcting insomnia is a process. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, sleep might feel worse before it gets better as your body is adjusting to these new patterns. This is normal and temporary. Usually 3 or 4 weeks into this, people start having more consolidated, deeper sleep. Just keep in mind, we're looking for progression, not perfection. All of us have a few bad nights a month. I've been in this field for 35 years, and I work with people who have been in this field even longer than I have. And we all still complain a couple of times a month that we had a bad night. So most people don't have perfect sleep every single night. I hope this gives you a good place to start fixing your insomnia, and I'll see you in the next video.